and Josh. The Hounds kick off the regular season this week, and we've got a lot of stuff to discuss before that happens. Let's go! I realized in this new setup, I can't like move away from the mic effectively. So I was like, do I go to this? I'll just run into a wall. So like, I gotta work that out.
I was gonna say it's a proper let's go. I mean, I feel like
Yes.
the season's really is starting now. Like
It's here. Like we gotta get into it. So
all right.
yeah, I'll tell you what. I haven't watched any MLS, but seeing ads for MLS, seeing all of the stuff that's come out from the USL, sort of hyping things. Everybody, posting about their new kits. Louisville bragging about how sweet their new kits are when their away kit is essentially the Hounds kit from 2 years ago. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for the season to start. Kev, how was your weekend?
Perfect. Weather was like 72, no humidity, and perfect, and it was just great. And so yeah, just Josh is distracting me right now.
It's because Dan Yost is in the background. Host of Houndsy.
He's not gonna be able to hear you right now, but yeah, Dan Yost, Houndsy.
Let's just tell him we're saying
recording tonight, recording tomorrow night, recording Thursday night.
All right,
let's go.
Yeah. Houndsy's bringing the heat this week. Lots of different shows going on. If you haven't listened to their last episode, go listen to their last episode because they talked all about these new signings that we'll touch on here, but not nearly as in depth as they did because I'm not sure it matters, but we'll get there. We're not quite there yet. So, Kev, did you mentioned it was beautiful. Did you get outside and take advantage of it, or did you just stay inside?
Yeah, no, it was great. Went out for just a long run, and then the next day wanted to go out and run again, but did something else, did some other like workout stuff with Riley, and then just went for a walk. And it was just everyone was out walking around, taking their dogs, playing frisbee, flying kites. I was like, I've never seen someone fly a kite in like 10 years. Someone was flying a kite in the park. It was nice. Yeah, it was a good weekend.
Good.
Oh, Josh. There was also, sorry, no one cares about this part, but I'm going to say it anyway. But like in Knoxville every year, we have the Mardi Gras, which is kind of fun. It's just this dog parade where people dress up their dogs and like Mardi Gras stuff. And so, we shut down streets in Knoxville, everyone, and it's just a parade and people just, walk their dogs and the dogs are like kind of confused, but everyone like happy and everyone's just, yeah, it was a good time. So we did that in the morning.
That feels like it's just set up to be a drinking game every time a dog stops to poop or pee in the parade. Like just, you see it happen, drink, go. Yeah. Well, good, Josh. I mean, this is going to segue right into what we wanted to talk about. But did you do anything besides Hound stuff this weekend? Because there's a lot of Hound stuff.
Went to a birthday type shindig on Sunday. That's about only thing non-Houndsy, well, Hounds related that I did. Saturday, getting ready for the AGM, watching the preseason game. On Friday, pretty much preparing for that, getting everything ready for it. Yeah, it was fun.
What was the age of the birthday?
Every time we talk to him, Era tries to say he's 40, but he's not. He's like 36 or 7 or something like that. And he's just like, I'm almost 40. I'm pretty much 40. I'm 40 now. It was pretty much just going to his house, playing board games, hanging out, drinking, just kind of like a low key, just having fun birthday party.
No, that sounds great. Liz says 38.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I was close.
Yeah. No, whenever somebody says birthday party, I just assume like kids' birthday party. And I'm like, no, like people have birthday parties. And I was telling you guys off air, part of the reason why I'm in that mindset is because from Wednesday through Sunday, our 5-year-old niece was staying with us while her parents were in Mexico. And so my life was flipped a little bit upside down. Not used to having a 5-year-old or a, little girl in the house because I have 3 boys. So there was a lot of Barbie going on, a lot of, snarky, poopy, farty jokes that were going on. And we just kind of like rolled with it. And yeah. So that's why I really wanted to come down for the Louisville game in the AGM. But we were like, we have her. And then my wife's like entire family came to our house because she was here. And so it was literally just, I think we had like 12 kids. 2 of them were 5 years old. Our dogs were terrified, like shaking the whole time because it was just chaos. And they're just used to like chill. But it was good to see everybody. Yeah, a little respite here before the season kicks off. So, Josh, you mentioned the AGM. Give us the goods. What happened? Are you still president?
I'm still president for now. We'll see. But
For
yeah,
now.
I'm still president. We pretty much just had one two positions go up for a vote, which is the member reps. So that happened, and we got it's a lot in the weed stuff, but biggest thing, one, the fact that we have a bus trip for sure happening this year, which is something we haven't been able to do in a while, which isn't until the last game of the season because it's at Detroit. We wanted to go to Detroit. Our options were pretty much like Detroit or Loudon. And we're like, yeah, Loudon. I really want to go to Loudon. Like it's pretty much one of the lamer places to like tailgate or do anything because they're like in the middle of nowhere parking lot, and like you're technically not even supposed to tailgate in their parking lot, and they have all these rules, and it's like there's nowhere to like drink close by where you can like go to a bar and then go to the game. Like you have to like get on a bus after the bar. So it was gonna be not fun. So we decided bus trip to Detroit would be the best option. Other than that, if you're not a member of the Steel Army, you now have access to all of our merch on Teespring. That used to be like a behind the Steel Army membership program where anything that gets sold there goes towards charity. So now instead of having that only members have access to it, we have everyone have access to it, and all the shirts are up, all the merch is up there. We're not doing like limited releases where you can only buy it for a month and that kind of stuff. We just want all the designs up there.
Yeah.
A popular one I think this year is going to be Defense is Sexy. If it's feeling like that might be this type of year. So that would be a key one to get. And then one of my personal favorites is there's actually a coffee mug for woke up this morning feeling fine. So it's like one of our chants that we always do. It's like a happy sunshine on it. That's perfect for a coffee mug. So
nice.
And all the profits go to charity. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. I think we were talking about it a little bit last week, but yeah, go check out that shop because there's so many designs that I had forgotten about that you guys have done over the years that are just fantastic. I really like some of the Spanish Steel Army ones that are really colorful and fun. And I actually had to look. This is terrible. I've been doing Duolingo straight for like 3 years, and I still had to look up. I'm like, what does that say? And it's like, oh, it's the Steel Army. It's Spanish.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic one. It's just Steel Army.
Yeah. I'm terrible. So that's what comes with that. Well, good. So the AGM went well. Then you guys hung around. Louisville was in town. The big news was that we ended up drawing 0-0 with Louisville. So for those of you out there that thought we were going to get blown out, we did not get blown out.
Mike.
I'm not pointing any fingers, Kevin. Jeez, get it together. Of note, especially when we get late in the preseason, we like to look at the starting lineup and try to get a sense of like, is this what we're going to see in week one? Unfortunately, I don't think so because after the game, Lilley was like, we started with the guys we did because they know the system and they've been around the longest. But, I really, expect a lot of the new guys to get more minutes as they get to know the system. So it's like, well, thanks for telling us absolutely nothing, Bob. Appreciate it. That said, the starting lineup was primarily guys who have been here other than two. So we started with Jamali Waite in goal. Nathan Dos Santos was back out on one wing, and then we had Hogan and Ordonez as the center backs with Rovira on the opposite side. So we played 4 at the back instead of 5, like Lilley went with, much of last season. In the midfield, we had Forbes, Mertz, Ibarra, and Itu. Itu is a new signee from Tampa. He's been all over the USL. He also played for Charlotte for a little bit. He's got a lot of minutes a few weeks back when we saw him in Akron. I'm sure he's gotten a lot of minutes against some of the other teams as well. And then up top, we had Kiza and Dikwa. So on paper, it looks like a 4-4-2 with a really packed midfield. And if Dos Santos and Rivera are getting up and down, it's almost like a 2-6-2 kind of thing. Talking to Steve a little bit, it sounded like Ibarra and Itu were the holding mids, or were sort of the double pivot, and then you had Forbes and Mertz and sort of a more attacking kind of look. So that could be very interesting if we're basically trying to stack the middle. But again, we'll have to just wait and see what happens as Lilley gets more comfortable with these guys and what we end up, rolling out. But Josh, any highlights or any takeaways from the game? I'm assuming you were probably still busy doing some El Presidente stuff, but from what you saw, what did you think?
There's that Duolingo Spanish.
There you go.
No, it was surprisingly how. This sounds terrible. It was surprising how great that we actually looked compared to what I was expecting. I thought it was going to be rough. I thought it was going to be really like a back and forth type of game. Like we looked dominant the whole time. Like we didn't get a goal, obviously, and that sucks. But we had a couple shots that were really close, and it was. I know you were just making fun of what Bob said, but it really did feel like a couple of passes, if they're a little bit more tight, we would have won that game. It barely looked like Waite had anything to do most of the game, and it was mostly on their defensive side. Like, yeah, I had no complaints about the game other than the fact that we didn't score. It was really good and it felt promising. But here's the thing. I don't know how Louisville was treating the game. I don't know if they had trialists the whole time on. I don't know if this was their starting lineup or if this is like their bench players. They're trying to get out there. I wasn't really paying that close attention to like who they had out on the field. So, that's the obvious caveat. And the other caveat being the fact that it's preseason. So it can't really take anything from it too seriously, at least.
Yeah. No, I mean, looking at previous Louisville games, and we sort of talked about them and how they got a lot of players back from last year, and they got a lot of their work done early in terms of signing players. They were still signing a few late this week, but for the most part, they've got their team. So who knows? Like you said, it's preseason. We don't want to put too much stock in it, and really, it feels like we're just going to have to take this game by game and sort of see how we shake out and go from there. But 0-0 draw, not terrible against Louisville. I'm sure that the guys wanted to come out and put on a bit of a show. It was the last game at home before the season starts. Concessions were open. They knew the Steel Army was going to be there from the AGM. So come on out and get it done. We mentioned, go ahead.
I was going to say a question around what do you guys think? I'm splitting hairs here, but on some level, I feel like that's what you have to do at preseason. Splitting hairs is the wrong word, but I guess I'm searching for something of substance that might not be there. In Lily's comment saying that others would have gotten more time, but this is the crew that had the most experience with the system. What do you guys think maybe he meant by that? Do you think so I'm reading into it, maybe he would have gone with 3 center backs, but he doesn't feel like he could play 3 center backs because a handful of them would have been new and not familiar with the system. So he goes with the 4. The 4 was pretty interesting to me because I have a hunt, it's like Dos Santos and Rivera in my mind are the main people that could play a fullback role or a wing back role or whatever, and they get their start. I'm kind of looking for, hints for what might carry over into the new season. And so the biggest thing to me wasn't even necessarily the players who started this game. It was the fact that he had 2 center backs. So I don't know, maybe that's what Lilley meant by his comment. What do you guys think?
I mean, in previous preseason games, we saw him roll out essentially 3 at the back with Hogan, Ordonez, and Farrow. So I was surprised to see when this lineup was announced that it was 4 at the back with a clear 2 center back pairing. So it will be interesting. I mean, is this Lilley going into this game thinking we're going to, try to take it to Louisville and make a point, and so you go with some different tactics? Or is this, just trying to try out some guys in a few different spots? I don't know. Listen, some of the guys that were announced, especially this past week, I think have some potential. And whether or not we see them play their way into one of these starting positions will be very interesting. But But yeah, I don't know. Josh, did you have any thoughts on Lilley's comments post game?
I mean, as far as that's concerned, I do think this game was less like the previous preseason games, where this one felt more like that starting lineup was like they were treating it more like a real game. Like they were like kind of using this as a trial run. Like, okay, this is, let's pretend like this is legit. This is our starting lineup. Now, second half, maybe not so much. I felt like they changed out a lot in the second half, but that first half definitely felt like this is what we should expect. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see this lineup again. But at the same time, kind of you gotta remember that Lilley likes to play with it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's going to be the same any game to game. So who knows?
Yeah. I think one of the things that'll be most interesting for me is considering all of the bodies that we're going to have in the midfield. We really were kind of playing with one forward last year, and then you'd have Cicerone sort of playing underneath, or he'd sort of come late into the attack, and you just have Dequo running alone up top. But the way this is sort of set up, if you have both Forbes and Mertz pushing high, there's not a lot of room for either Kizza or Dequa to be like the underneath guy. So to sort of see how we do line up offensively could be very, very interesting. Is it actually like a flat 2 up top? Or is it, you have one guy and then you almost have like the false 9 underneath? We'll have to sort of wait and see. But I mean, listen, all things considered, great way to end the preseason. It would have been great to get a win, but to put up a draw against Louisville, who are always in the championship, and with a bunch of guys that we're just not sure how they're going to perform this year. It gives you some hope heading into Birmingham this weekend. So, yeah.
It also got heated, by the way. I don't know if you guys saw. Well, you heard Bob talk a little bit about it, but there was a moment in the end of the first half where there was a foul and it was on us, but it looked like Louisville really was not happy about it. The players, and like everyone rushing in the middle, shouting at each other, pushing, shoving, all that kind of stuff. And the ref just pretty much breaking it all up. And then after that happened, the whistle blows for the halftime, and the ref ends up going over to the bench to talk to their coach. And that got heated, and like it almost started all over again because like the players on the bench were getting upset. And then it's like, it didn't even look like that bad of a foul. It was just like a pretty innocuous foul. Just like, okay, Hogan went in for it and got the player a little bit. Everyone was walking away fine. There was no like stretcher or anything like that. It was just like anger. So
Interesting.
Could be a precursor to some, little some feelings, some developing. I mean, look, I think we think of Louisville more as a rival than they probably think of us, but
probably.
Oh, for sure.
This could be nice if they're mad over a normal challenge in a preseason game.
You saying that it was Hogan, my money was going to be on Ibarra. So interesting to see that, the foul was on Hogan. I'm looking back through Twitter, assuming it doesn't crash here really quickly. There was someone recently who said it. Oh, Nikki Kollarak. He tweeted, interesting question. If you could 2-foot or absolutely go through any footy player in the world, who would it be? So that spurred some interesting conversation, but I figured that was a timely topic. Mine would be, if it's anybody in the world, Bruno Fernandes. Can't stand the guy.
That was going to be my answer.
I feel like at Man United, like I just can't stand the guy. If it was USL, that would be like I feel like, at least for me, there's like 2. One would be Tyler Pasher.
That was my answer.
Yeah, Tyler Pasher circa a few years ago. Or Paolo Del Piccolo used to be just a huge annoyance at Louisville, and he's still. That's why when you were like, there was a scuffle, I was like, was it a bar on Del Piccolo? Because that would be interesting. Yeah, Kev, who?
No,
do you have somebody other than Bruno?
No, you took all the joy out of it.
Oh.
You took all the joy out of it. Yeah, it was Bruno Fernandes for me, for sure.
Yeah. Josh, do you have anybody that isn't in the USL that you 2-foot through them?
Not really. I don't. No one really gets my blood boiling in EPL or anything like that. Suarez? No, was it Suarez?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ear biter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess that works, but even that, it's just more like, oh, Drogba.
Yeah.
But it's not because of what he did in EPL. It's what he did in MLS.
Yeah.
He did like a leg lock against the Crew, and it was just like the most egregious foul in the box, and just like, what? I didn't do anything. What? It's fine. It's like literally like holding on to the guy's leg to try to bring him down.
Yeah. Well, let us know, or respond to Nikki Kollarak's tweet, former Hound Nikki Kollarak. It's a fun question to think about. It's fun to think about hurting somebody. There's that little part of you that, if you get to play the villain in like a movie or something, like I feel like that's the best role, because that's the side of you that likely never comes out, and that's the one time it's allowed to come out. So yeah, you can two-foot anybody.
There would be something oddly satisfying doing it for like the best players and like Messi or Ronaldo. Just like, yeah, take that. Like, I know you have 1,000 goals, but my 5 mile per hour 2-foot against you, which would do so much harm.
Just slowly steps out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought of one more, but I almost feel sorry for him more than I do. Like, I want to take him out, but I was going to say Romeo Parks, just because like of what he did, but it was less of what he did and more of like when we actually interviewed him, just how blasé he was about the whole thing. And it was just like, how long is this going to take? I'm here to help you, dude. Like, come on, like, give me something. And he was just like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'm just like, all right, fine.
Mike pulling back the curtain.
I don't know if we've ever talked about that. We'll talk.
No,
we'll save that from other. We'll save that from some other show. The Hounds did announce 7 other players between our last show and now. Houndsy made a nice little joke about it. Like, when you record on a Monday, like, this is what you get, because their show came out, I think, on Friday. And so they're able to capture all the players. So they did go into more detail about these guys. In the past, we used to spend a whole lot of time like digging into each one of the new signees, but oftentimes I found that to be fruitless, because a lot of the guys you get into the season and you don't ever talk about them ever again. So it's like fun to look into them, but it's also feels like a waste of time. So part of me is like, you know what, let's see if these guys get some minutes, and then, we'll definitely talk about them, maybe talk to them, that kind of thing. But just to sort of let you know, the 7 players that were announced, we signed a 3rd keeper, Jonathan Gomes. We signed another center back, Michael DeShields. So now we have 4 center backs on the team. In terms of midfielders, they announced 3 more. Burke Falling, which, Josh, that was the guy that you and I were like, oh snap, like he looks good, he looks solid. He was playing right back against Akron, but apparently he can play anywhere in the midfield. DZ Harmon, who was the one who reminded me of Lebo Maloto in terms of stature and skills, and so that could be a very interesting setup in the midfield. It sounded like he was very active in terms of getting crosses in and making things happen, and so that could be interesting. And then Junior too, who we said got some minutes or started this game against Louisville. And then 2 more forwards, Tony Lopez and Tola Shounmi, who we talked about Tola on the last episode. But we've got a pretty deep set of forwards, and I think Lilley typically does that, and then we don't hear about these guys. It was actually fun. We're going to talk about in a minute sort of the best players in the Lilley era, and sort of going back and looking at all of the midfielders and all of the forwards since Lilley's been here, and some of the names that it was just like, what? Oh, completely forgot about that guy. I almost put Mark Forrest in the top 6, and then I was like, I can't do that.
Legend Mark Forrest?
Legend Mark Forrest.
Respect.
Yeah. Do you still have that jersey, Kev, or did you do some? You got it?
Who would take it? I mean,
I thought he meant he had a frame. He doesn't wear it. It's
Right.
Yeah. Obviously.
It's hanging up just off camera. Yeah, for sure. So lots of players. It feels like, I think we're at 19 now, players signed. I feel like we typically like to go
18.
into the season. You said 18?
I thought it was 18. I don't know.
I thought we were actually close to 20, so I'm off.
I feel like we typically go into the season 21, 22. That's kind of where we want to be. So who knows if there are more signings coming, especially as, MLS season is obviously here, but there are guys that just didn't make the cut. We might pick up one or two guys as the season gets rolling, and we'll go from there. Why are you laughing, Kev?
It sounded like you tried to hold down the burp and just power through your thing. And Mulaney has a bit about that. It's like, as you get older, you just try to power through burps and it's just disgusting.
I apologize if what I did was disgusting. I just tried to my bad.
It wasn't disgusting. It just made me laugh. And you asked me why, and I'm being truthful.
What's your favorite Mulaney bit, Kev?
Oh, when he goes to sometimes I get nervous on airplanes and it turns into a prostate exam. Yeah.
I still like I forget the name of the diner where him and his buddy went, and they just played What's New Pussycat over and over and over again. Yeah. Josh, do you follow John Mulaney at all? Do you have any John Mulaney sketches?
I've watched some of his specials. I couldn't tell you a single one of his jokes.
We went back and watched John Mulaney and the Snack Lunch Bunch on Netflix recently, and it holds up surprisingly well. All things considered, even though he starts the episode like, I would never want my own kids, and now he's like, my child is the greatest thing ever. All right, kid. Speaking of greatest thing ever, that was not a planned segue. Guys, let's talk about the best players in the Lilley era. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about before we get into this.
I'm good.
We're good? Okay. Let's talk about the best players in the Lilley era. So last week we started this, and the idea was we would look back at each position. Last week we did keepers and center backs, and we sort of shared our thoughts as to when you look at all the keepers and all the center backs that have been here since 2018, which is when Lilley got here, which ones would you pick to be the best? And the thought is that at the end of this, we're going to have 11 players that we sort of say, since 2018 to the beginning of the 2023 season, these are the best players that we think have come through the Hounds with Lilley here. So we voted ourselves, and I think that our voting matched up pretty close to what everyone else voted for online. So we did put up online voting. In terms of the keeper, you all picked Kyle Morton as a starting keeper. And so I think that was roughly around where we landed as well. In terms of center backs, we had multiple rounds of voting. Tommy V was the only one who made it through the first round as a unanimous winner. So we said, you're in by default. And then the next round, we said the top two vote getters will make it through. And Joe Greenspan was sort of a dominant choice there. And it was neck and neck with Ordonez and Hugh Roberts down to the wire. And there was some additional voting that happened today after we sort of cut it off yesterday that made it even closer. But by the time when I created this graphic, it was Ordonez. So based on everyone else's votes, our first four into sort of the top 11 in the Lilley era are going to be Kyle Morton in goal, Joe Greenspan, Tommy V, Arturo Ordonez as your center backs. Imagining we're doing a 5-3-2 kind of formation. So guys, any thoughts on what everybody voted for? Do you think anybody got shafted and not included in that, or we feel good with that list?
That seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to see a current player on there.
Yeah.
So sure. That feels good. At least it's not all looking back with rose-colored glasses, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How would you guys position them? Would you position them like this? Monchizio in the middle?
Yes. For those who are listening to the show, Tommy V is in the middle of the center back trio, and then you have Greenspan on, I guess, technically the left and Ordonez on the right. I think you might be able to swap them. For some reason, I want to say Joe typically played on the right, but I could be wrong.
I was just more curious about who plays in the middle, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd definitely put Tommy V in the middle. So let's move from the middle, guys, to the outside. So let's look at the wingers in the Lilley era. Now, I will say that there have been other players that have come through and played in midfield and as a winger and as forwards, but I tried to limit this to 6 in each position. I used some discretion and picked who I thought were the best players primarily based on minutes played. There were other guys that had a few minutes here and there, but it was like, when you actually look at this list, I didn't feel that they belonged on this list, and I don't think anybody would challenge me for that. So as we're looking at the wingers, we have 6 players here. We have Ray Lee, we have Jordan Dover, Danny Rivera, Ryan James, Alex Dixon, and Nathan Dos Santos. So this one I think could be slightly controversial because you could make the argument that Alex Dixon, is he like technically a winger? Is he technically a forward? Where does he actually play? More often than not over the past 2 seasons, it felt like Lilley deployed him as a winger, even though, he liked to get up the field and put crosses into the box. So Liz is saying this is a rigged system. Yeah, I know, Liz. It's fine. When you make the graphics, you make the rules. So, guys, looking at this list, Ray Lee, Jordan Dover, Danny Rivera, Ryan James, Alex Dixon, Nathan Dos Santos. Kev, what is your first thought just sort of seeing that list?
I mean, I would have, I guess expected, I don't know, more names to pop up, but I think that probably speaks to how long-standing the likes of Dover, James, and even Ray Lee to a certain extent, the 3 of them have been, where they've kind of they've locked down those positions. The other one was where Bonkizio kind of had an immediate slot in. I mean, Ryan James for me has to have an immediate slot in here too. He's S tier for us. So anyway, those are my 2 quick thoughts from it.
Well, and the thing with Ryan James, the same thing with Tommy V, is you could technically nominate them in multiple positions. Like he could be a winger, he could be a midfielder. Tommy V could be a center back, he could be a midfielder. So,
didn't Ryan James score 2 goals from left wing back before?
He may have. There were a couple times he was pushed up into attacking mid as well.
Yeah. I don't even think I can't remember now. Never mind. Stop talking.
Josh, what were your thoughts seeing this list?
Ryan James right off the bat. I mean, that was, as soon as you pull up the list, I'm like, okay, obviously Ryan James, and then perturbed by Alex Dixon because I want him on this. I want to pick him, but at the same time, as a winger,
yeah,
I don't know.
Or at least in a wing back along, expecting to do some defending. If you were if Dixon was on the right side of a front 3, then sure. And if you're calling that a winger, sure. But in this kind of, you're going to be expecting to sit next to Greenspan or Ordonez in defense. I would agree. I don't know if I want Dixon back there.
But that's where Lilley played him.
I know.
That's why I put him here. I'd love for him to be further up the field, but Lilley constantly played him there. So I feel like we can't.
No, I get the inclusion.
Like you to play.
Yeah, I get the inclusion of Dixon in this category.
Yeah.
Also, Jordan Dover, man, he's awesome. I love Jordan. He was so much fun. So just seeing him, I was like, oh yeah, great.
So
that's honestly, I mean, that's so. All right, I'll just tell you my answer. It sounds great, but Ryan James and Jordan Dover for me are the 2 that I would want at left back and right back.
Josh,
I mean, I like Danny a lot though. Ravi, I mean, I'm gonna do Ryan James and Danny.
Oh man, okay. Nobody's
Mike?
picking. I could make an argument that Dixon might be one of the most talented players that's been on the Hounds. He's just been played out of the position.
I agree.
It's just can you really have a best 11 of the Lilley era and not include Alex Dixon and be like, he's your first guy off the bench? Really? That's how we're going to do this? But that's
I guess for me also, it's what I want in my dream team. And I guess what I want is in my mind, if our back 5 is Ryan James, Ordonez, Greenspan, Bonkizio, and Dover,
that's solid.
We're going back to the era where we let up 15 goals in a season. Not saying that Dixon can't defend, but he just becomes an obvious maybe exploit for other teams when we're playing against, because he's going to get higher up the field. He's going to be required to be a serious part of the attack, which could leave some openings down that, flank, and that could be, tough. So yeah, whereas I think Dover is just rock solid at that position and can still contribute a little bit going forward. I think, yeah. I'd rather pick someone who is more defense first and attack second than attack first and defense second, even though Dixon is incredibly talented.
So maybe what we'll do is this. We'll say that if we get to the midfielders and we get to the forwards and there's somebody that you think Dixon should replace, then we'll do that.
Cool.
But I'm telling you right now, when we get to that list, you're gonna be like, crap.
I'm gonna say this is the place to put them. I feel like, because as soon as you show those midfielders, we're gonna be like, oh no, okay, these ones over top.
Yeah. So I think, Kev, I think I'm with you. Like, I can't justify leaving Dixon off this list, but I think it's got to be James and Dover. I feel like it just feels like that's like warm blanket Lilley. It felt like for years it was James and Dover, and it was just like you knew what you had, that they were gonna lead out of the back line, put crosses into the box. They were gonna be rock solid. Even though I would have loved to see James more in the midfield, but like that's what it was. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how I got to figure out how we're going to do this voting. Like with the center backs, we sort of did pairings, and then whoever made it through the pairings, there was like a final round. And I don't know if that makes sense in this scenario too, or if we say like top two, we'll have to think about it. But voting, I mean, go ahead.
I'll fight pretty hard to get Dixon in somewhere else. So,
okay,
we'll see.
Let's move on then to midfielders. We said Brian James is in for us, and then beyond that, we gotta figure some things out. Midfielders. So back to 2018 flashback. We had Kevin Kerr, Kenny Forbes, who's been here since 2018, Mo Dabo, who there was a lot of love for Mo Dabo. Then you had Robbie Mertz, Danny Griffin, and the underrated Todd Wharton also played some midfield, who retired with the team. So 6 midfielders: Kerr, Forbes, Dabo, Mertz, Griffin, Wharton. I mentioned there were a few other, Ben Zemansky came through. There were a few other guys that were in the midfield that, based on minutes, based on contributions, just didn't feel like they contributed as much as these 6 did. So Josh, immediate thoughts seeing the 6.
I mean, automatically, Kenny Forbes is making that list. Are we doing more than one? How many are we doing here?
3.
3?
Yeah. Unless you think one of these guys should be replaced by Alex Dixon.
Okay, this is 2018 is the earliest we can go back.
Yep.
Because I'm like Kevin Kerr, I feel like knee-jerk reaction was like, yeah, Kevin Kerr. But later Kevin Kerr versus
don't think like that. Just think like player in general. Yeah.
All right, then yeah, Kevin Kerr.
Yeah.
And then after that, is it Griffin? Is it Griffin or is it Mertz?
It's tricky.
I'm gonna Griffin.
Kev, your boy. The real Kevin's on the list? So
the real Kevin is on the list. I'll give him that. Wait, are we doing forwards right after this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'll pause before trying to fit Dixon into this 3, and I might retroactively go back. Same thing with me. My first thought, Kenny has to go in. I'm not even sure where I'd want to put him. I don't think Bob does either, because I feel like every other season Kenny goes through the entire spectrum of playing more advanced and having a more free playmaker role, and then playing more deep and being like a deep blind playmaker. And I don't know, or even playing like as like a wide player. So I don't know where I'd put Kenny either. Yeah, I mean, I remember really liking Mo Dabo. And I think he had a lot of qualities that maybe a lot of these other players don't, but I don't know if I can justify him in. Same thing with Todd Wharton. Todd Wharton was just solid, but not great. I would say he was like a slightly worse version of Danny Griffin. And And then it's, I don't know. I'll pause there. I'll say Kenny's definitely in, and I'm removing Mo Dabo and Todd Wharton from my other considerations. And Mike, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with you. Kenny, just because he's been here since 2018, I don't think there's been a year that he hasn't been voted to one of the all USL teams. He's the all-time assist leader. He's been our captain since probably 2018. He can't not be on that list. I mean,
I feel like, like every year, at least once, most like more than once, he does something on the field that like no one else can do. And it's just like, oh yeah, like you're just so much better at this than everyone else.
And we have, over the years, I think he's going to be 33 this year, 34, something like that. So like we have sort of knocked him. His speed has dropped a little bit, but you can't discount his contribution to the team since Lilley got here, and what I'm sure he's going to continue to contribute as well. When we talked to him on the show, he had said that he actually prefers to play further up the field, whereas when he started here, he was sort of in that holding mid pivot role. So Kenny's got to be on. I feel like just because it's Kevin Kerr, I feel like it has to be Kevin Kerr, and so then that leaves us with Mertz or Griffin. My man crush on Griffin is well documented. So I would probably say Griffin, just because he was here, the past 3 years, like most consistent player, played almost every game during that time. If Mertz had stuck around, that's not knocking Mertz. I absolutely he should have gone to Atlanta. He should have tried it. Just like Griffin is trying his hand at MLS right now. But if Mertz had stuck around, it might be more of a contest for me. So I think it's Kerr, Forbes, and Griffin. But I honestly, I had I literally put this graphic together yesterday, and I had all this time to think about it. And I couldn't even come to that conclusion until right now, because it's just there's a lot of good players here.
All right. Well, one question though, with this conclusion, which you have the same lineup as I do, bringing in Dixon, does Griffin get in over Dixon for you?
Oh man.
Is this where we drop one?
This is like, I can make an argument for Dixon being really dangerous in this position. We've seen it, I feel like, so little that it's hard to really make a call for it. I don't doubt he could thrive from any position, and this is why I just have to wait until I see the forward list for me to give my answer for that. But I think it's possible.
All right, so let's look at the forward list, and then we can come back to this and sort of see what goes from there. So we said we're picking 3 midfielders. We're going to pick 2 forwards. Here is our list of forwards. We have Nico Brett, who I think was up for Golden Boot. I can't remember if he won it that season or not. Cristiano Francois, Steven Dos Santos, Russell Cicerone, Albert Diqua, or Dane Kelly, which could be sort of the surprise post on here. But keep in mind that in the few games that he played, he was our leading goal scorer in terms of goals per minutes. So he did have a bit of a, I don't know, we'll say he had a riff with Lilley because that's why he wasn't playing. But he, up to that point, was the USL's all-time leading goal scorer and was the team's leading goal scorer per minute, and just didn't get a lot of playing time last season. So again, that's Nico Brett, Cristiano Francois, Steven Dos Santos, Russell Cicerone, Albert Diqua, and Dane Kelly. So, Kev, what's your immediate thoughts when I show it? It doesn't even have to be like I'm picking these 2 players. Just what did you think when you heard this list?
I forgot about the timelines a little bit. I was thinking Romeo Parks was going to be on here after you mentioned it.
I 2-footed him out of existence. It
okay,
doesn't matter.
Cool. Hey, that's fine. If I'm playing FIFA, I strongly consider Dane Kelly. And also because like what you said, Mike, I mean, when he did get on the field, I mean, he looked good. But I also feel like I can't pick him for this because I don't know how many games he actually played off the top of my head, but he became non-existent at the second half of his only season here. So I feel like I just have to cross out Dane Kelly. yeah, I'll stop there. So I'm not monologuing.
Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm crossing out Dane Kelly. No, thank you. Christian Francois. No, thank you. Yeah, he was good, but I don't know. I've
I was
soured
like,
on
that
him.
was really quick, man. Like you didn't even. You were just like, nope, you're out.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I think for me, it's three names here. It's DeSantos, Nico Brett, and Cicerone. I think DeSantos has to be on for me.
Ooh.
He added something that we still have not yet seen since, and that was the fact that he could always get us in great positions, get the foul. He could make things happen when there was nothing going on up top. He was just good at getting that into those positions and getting those fouls. And like, what was it last year? How many PKs did we have last year? Like 0. Like
Yeah.
running, like yeah, like we suffer so bad from not having someone who can get those. So I feel like I just miss what he brought to the team so much that he's an automatic add for me, at least for one of the spots. And the other two are going to be either Nico Brett or Cicerone, and that one's a little bit more of a toss up for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at this list, for me, again, we're not like picking the best players as to like how they would play together. This is just like all time best players, contributions. For me, it feels like Brett. Like I feel like you have to have Brett in that conversation because Brett, like you said about Dos Santos, Brett would turn nothing into something. Like
Yeah.
he could sort of pick up the ball and just score. And I don't think we've had since Nico Brett sort of a pure goal scorer in that vein since he left. And like part of me is leaning really hard towards Cicerone just because it felt like we talked about it last season. Almost any other player on the team, if they were going in one-on-one with the keeper, you had that doubt of like, ooh, like this might not go our way. But if Cicerone had the ball at his feet, it was like cold-blooded. You were like, it's going in. He's going to put it away. In a way that I don't think really, I mean, other than maybe Nico Brett, but I don't even know if I felt that way with Brett. So for me, I think I'm going Brett and Cicerone.
See, I would kind of disagree with you on the Cicerone thing. I think Nico was more ruthless and cold blooded than Cicerone. I think Nico, I think his finishing ability is probably the best on this list outside of Kelly. See, and to quickly go back to Kelly, if it's just like Kevin is building his own team, speaking in the third person, I'm picking Dane Kelly. And I'm picking Dan Kelly like first. But this is a different exercise. So I just need to clarify that. So there's an argument to over-engineer this and do my best Pep Guardiola impression here.
Oh, here we go.
And just over-tinker.
Are you going to play 5 midfielders and no forwards?
No. So Steven Dos Santos. A player comes to mind in the Premier League, Joel Linton. And I remember I was like, Joel Linton was a striker from what I remember, and now he's playing midfield for Newcastle, a good Newcastle side who are playing really well this season. And when I search, is Joel Linton a striker? The first article that comes up is laughingstock striker turns to midfield maestro, and I feel like Dos Santos could actually be quite good in the midfield. And I feel like we brought this up when he was still here too. And if that's the case, if I want to over-engineer, I'm putting Dos Santos in the midfield and putting Dikwa next to Brett. Or sorry, not Dikwa, Dixon next to Brett. So it'd be Nico Brett next to Alex Dixon with like Dos Santos in the midfield with Kenny and then it's split between Mertz and Kevin Kerr, and I'd probably go Mertz.
So,
but if I'm not over engineering, then I'd put, and I'm playing by your categories, I'd do Nico Brett with Steven Dos Santos up top, and then have a midfield of Kenny, Mertz, and either Alex Dixon or Kevin Kerr. And I'm probably picking. It's a toss-up.
You're picking Dixon.
Yeah, I'm probably picking Dixon.
You've always hated Kevin Kerr.
Can I make one more argument for Cicerone over Brett?
Ooh.
Do we think Brett, his time with us, benefited from better players around him than what Cicerone had?
Ooh.
I'll push back on that a bit because I would say, yeah, Brett had a better team around him, but I think he had less talented attacking players around him. And so I think Cicerone had better attacking players around him.
Wasn't there a season that it was both Brett and Dos Santos up top? I
Yeah.
feel like there might have been a season.
Potentially, but even at that, I mean, I'm looking at Cicerone, and when you're playing on the field with Alex Dixon, Kenny Forbes, Robbie Mertz, all behind you, feeding you, and I mean, say what you want about Dequa, he's fast, he has an engine, and he'll do a lot of the hard work, hard running for you. I feel like Cicerone had a lot set up for him in his position.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't know if you guys have convinced me not to pick Cicerone, but we did talk a lot about how it seemed like every game last season you'd get to the 60th, 70th minute and Bob's taking him off because like the engine's shot. So, is that a knock against him? I will say, Kev, to your point about Dequa, I feel like Dequa to me is similar to, I'm going to make an Aston Villa reference here, to Ollie Watkins, in that like he's going to work hard for you nonstop to try to win the ball back. He's never going to quit for the team. And he may not be the best pure striker, but that has a lot of value for the squad in ways that don't show up on the stat sheet.
If you're rating individuals like personal performances on a game by game level from 0 to 10, like the worst Dequa will ever give you is like a 6. Whereas some of these other players, the worst they might give you is like a 4 or a 3 or something.
Agreed. I agree with that. So, oh man. So Kev, your final roster in terms of midfield and forward combination, you said you would put Dos Santos in the midfield with Kenny and
probably Mertz. Yeah. Kenny, Mertz, Dos Santos in the midfield with Nico and Alex Dixon.
Up top. That's interesting. Okay. Maybe the first question that we should put out there is, what position should Alex Dixon be in? And then that will impact where he shows up in voting. We'll do that. Okay, so that's your like final between midfield and forwards. Josh, what is your final here between midfield and forwards? And does Alex Dixon make the cut for you?
No, I don't think. Well, okay. I guess take out Griffin, put in Dixon. I think that makes sense.
So what does that make your midfield? Sorry.
It was Forbes, Kerr, and Dixon. And then Dos Santos and I think you're right. It has to be Nico Brett. I like Brett, but I also really like Cicerone. So
plus, Nico's picture right there is just like, what? You're not going to pick me? Like,
I know, right? He's judging me. He's judging me. I'm looking back at the stats right now on USL's page. I'm like, maybe you can make an argument that Cicerone gets a lot more assists than Nico does. Like, he's good for goals and assists, which I don't think Nico really was that great at assists.
We have enough assists in this team with the midfielders.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Nico Brett. So, yeah, Dos Santos and Brett.
I mean, us talking about sort of the work rate, and I know we're not like picking formations and like, well, other than you, Kev. I think a pairing of Nico Brett and Albert Dequa could be very interesting.
I think that could be interesting too. Yeah,
just underneath Dequa, like let Dequa do all the hard work up top, and then Brett is there to pounce on whatever like squirts out from Dequa putting the press on.
Yeah, I think as a pairing, Dequa and Brett would be interesting, even though I might put Dequa like 4th on this list.
Yeah, agreed. So if I'm looking at my midfield and I'm saying that my midfield is Kerr and Forbes and Griffin. Then I think I go Nico Brett. Oh man. And this is where I now get in my own head of like, is Alex Dixon better than any of these other guys?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Any of them, yes.
He's the most best. That's as far as what I don't know. I still think Alex Dixon is the most talented player, like on this list.
Yeah, I feel like in that case, then I'm gonna go. Which is it's weird because Dixon and Cicerone were in the same team for 2 years, and it's like, yet Dixon was always played as a wingback and not up front, like doing stuff. Other than that crazy scissor kick goal off.
I mean, let's remember what
bounce.
Like he made what he was at. Was he was at Hartford before?
Yes,
he made Hartford look good. Like,
yeah. You can make the frauds look good. You can
yeah.
look good.
Okay, I'm gonna say I'll swap in Dixon up front, and I'll say Brett and Dixon up top.
That's right.
And so there's our squad. So we didn't come up with like a unanimous squad for the show or for us three, but we have our own picks. It will be very, very interesting to see how this voting goes down, because there is really just 4 days between now and when the season kicks off. There's going to be a lot of ongoing voting for everybody here over the next 4 days. So stay tuned to Twitter, stay tuned to YouTube. The first round of voting on the center backs, we did some on Twitter, we did some on YouTube. Once again, Twitter today, apparently there's one developer working on their APIs and was causing, like, if you clicked on any links, it would just go to a blank screen with an error message. So we're not going to put any of the polls on Twitter, just in the event that they go down and then nobody can vote on them. We're going to put them over on YouTube. We had, I think, 20 people vote on the last round of the center back stuff, or like whatever the auxiliary round was. So people are finding it. We will post the link on Twitter, assuming that you can click it to get over to the community page on YouTube. But that way we can keep everything there. We know we're not going to lose anything, and we'll roll with it. Kev, why are you smiling?
I was just like, you really hate Twitter. Like,
no, listen. I contrary to popular belief, I don't really care. Like, I think that a lot of the crap that Elon is pulling is crap. But I also, if Twitter worked, I'd be like, fine, because what I use it for, like, I'm not part of the cesspool. I'm literally just there, like, taking part in sort of soccer. Well, sure, yeah. Some might say that, yeah, I am part of the cesspool, but like, I like to think that I'm not. So, no, listen, I'm making a prediction right now. I think in the next 4 to 5 years, YouTube might legitimately become the, like, go everywhere, do everything app. I think that what they want to do with it, this is completely off topic. What they want to do with it is eventually merge YouTube TV in with it, so that you can literally watch live TV. You can watch, like, YouTube videos of people commenting on the live TV. They will put all of your movies and TV shows that you buy. It'll just become a one-stop for everything. And if they start incorporating all of that with comments and posts, and, like, it's just going to become the go everywhere, do everything app. So
YouTube should sponsor the show, is what you're saying?
Yes. But they won't, because they're YouTube.
They
won't even let us, like, because of the number of followers, they won't let us, like, do anything. So whatever. I'm not bitter. You're bitter. So that's what we think about at least the teams. Like I said, keep an eye out.
My team's beating your team, by the way.
Okay.
My team's beating all your teams.
Keep an eye. We're not competing against each other. We're trying to
pick the
best 11. Well, what will be interesting is, like I said, the first vote I will put out tonight is, where should Dixon line up? Should he be a winger, a midfielder, or a forward? And that will determine where he competes in all of this. And then we'll figure out the voting from there, because it could end up skewing everything. But
Bob's going to see that and just start sweating. He's going to be like, oh, I don't know.
All right, guys. We're here. It's the season starting.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is.
Saturday, 7:30 p.m. ESPN Plus in Birmingham. I'd call this a Birmingham nothing to preview. Literally none of Birmingham's preseason games are listed on the USL site. So we have no idea. Like literally, you could go to the USL page, click on preseason, and it will show you every preseason game that happened for a USL team, regardless of who it was against. Like it lists us playing against Columbus and Pitt and Penn State. Doesn't matter. Nothing for Birmingham. And if you just Google Birmingham Legion, Google thinks that they played Charlotte and lost 3-2 this preseason, and that they were supposed to have a game against Memphis this past weekend, and it was canceled. So maybe they had a game this preseason. I don't know. I do know that Kaler from the USL show is going to be doing a Birmingham preview show, and Justin is going to join him. So we might get more information from Kaler at that point to get a better sense of what to expect of this team going into this first game. Just to sort of give us a sense of what we might be expecting, I pulled up USL Tactics, our buddy John, his summary of Birmingham this year. I'm going to read through it briefly and just sort of pick and choose some things. He said the Legion used a thin squad in 2022, earning a home playoff match on the strength of Enzo Martinez's false nine play and Johnny Dean's pace at right back. Dean is out, but replaced by Tyler Pasher, who got 10 goals in 15 matches with Indy in 2020, and striker Nico Brett, who we were just raving about. The depth question remains an issue with a high press 4-2-4 system. And they tend to have a lot of attacking players up front. I know, Kev, we were sort of raving about Agadello last year. USL Tactics is projecting him to be on the bench because they're going to have Pasher and Enzo Martinez and Nico Brett all sort of running crazy up top. So he thinks that based on the forward set alone, this Birmingham team is a title contender. Now, whether or not they're able to mesh at the back and sort of make this work is going to be interesting. All of that said, this is our first week of doing like actual score predictions that count. Yeah. So this is where it gets really tough. And while you guys think about your score prediction, once again, we will put up a post on YouTube. I will share it on Twitter where those who are participating in our pick'em, you can go and post your score prediction. Make sure that you do a final score, plus if there's a team that's winning, who the team is that won. And we had a ton of people sign up to be supporters of the show. Thank you so much for that. You will automatically be entered to win the 2 season tickets to the Steel Army section in 2024, should you get the best score outside of, the Mongols crew. But I will share that later this week. We will have a hard deadline of like Friday at midnight to get your score prediction. Well, actually, let me ask you guys, when do you guys think the deadline should be to get your score predictions in? Like, should we wait until lineups are announced, or should we make people pick before that?
Before lineups are out.
Before line, so like lineups are almost like set your watch announced 1 hour before game time starts. So we will say like if the game is at 7:30, you have to have your pick in before the lines are out at 6:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. So we will put up the post.
Yeah.
We will put out the post. Seeing hour before, there's going to be people that are like 6:31, like because the lineup is there. But like we are gonna, here's how we're gonna do it. The team always tweets out the lineup. We will go off the timestamp of the tweet. So if your comment comes in at the same time, so if they tweet at 6:31 and you put your thing at 6:31, you're out. It doesn't count. It's got to be in before the lineup is announced. But we'll put up a post. That specific post will say like, put your picks here, put your picks in the comments. And then next week we will put up a graphic with whoever's winning, and we'll keep tabs all season. It'll be fun. Now that I've vamped for like 3 minutes talking about how we're going to do this, who wants to go first? Any takers?
I'll go first.
All right, Kev.
God, I can't wait for the congressional hearing where like the final two who might win like is split by 1 point and one person got their vote in at the last second or something. I'm going to say 1-1.
So you're calling a draw. And remember, it's not even just like if you get 3 points if you get the score right. If you just get win, loss, draw right, you get 1 point and then no points for nothing. So you can't just say, I was just about to be like draw, because it doesn't know, like points matter. So Josh, what are you taking?
I think this is unfortunate for the Hounds because I feel like this is going to be a strong team they're playing against. And Lilley's pretty much already said, hey, once we get our passing game tighter, we're going to be a great offensive team. So like they're playing us at the worst possible time to be playing us. So I think this is going to be like 2-0.
2-0 Birmingham?
Yeah. Like, unfortunately, I don't want it to happen, but yeah.
See, I was thinking about 2-1, but if it's true that like Birmingham just didn't have a preseason, I'm kind of hoping of that.
For sure. That could play a huge part in this. But yeah, just the fact that they have so much power up there, and the fact that Bob said that our team is, still trying to find their footing and gelling. Yeah, that worries me.
I think our focus is going to be to go in there and get a point. And I think that the way that Bob does that is he just plays defense and hopes that we can like squeak one out. Kev, I'm kind of with you. If they haven't really had a preseason, Pasher and Brett are both new to the team. Now, Brett was with them for a while and then he left and now he's back. So I can't remember if Brett and Martinez had played together before. If not, to have sort of like three guys, all like Martinez has been around, but to have Pasher and Brett sort of around and they aren't connecting either, that makes me a little bit less nervous. I feel pretty good about our center backs. Like they've got a lot of time together. Dos Santos got some minutes in this game coming off injury, like this past game against Louisville, but really hasn't got many minutes beyond that. As down as I've been on this team, I think the only way we come out of there is with, I could be wrong, is with a clean sheet. So I'm going to say
yeah, that's a joke. How down you have been on this team.
Are you saying I haven't been down on this team?
No, I feel like you should be predicting us to lose like 3-0.
But no, like I'm just saying, based on the matchups and based on how we did against Louisville of all teams, like, do I think that Louisville's got a better squad than Birmingham right now? Maybe.
I think Louisville will probably finish above Birmingham just from probability.
So with that in mind, I think the other thing you have to keep in mind is that it is the home opener, it's the season opener, and it's in Birmingham. So like they have a slight advantage there. I'll say 1-0 Birmingham. I was gonna say 0-0. Because I think we could literally just, that would be the most Lilley thing of all Lilley things, is just like pack the box and play for a 0-0 draw and hope that you get something.
I don't think he's gonna do that though.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say 1-0 and like we come back with more questions and we go from there. Liz put in her vote. She said 3-2 Hounds. Liz thinks it's going to be a goal fest. So we're not all doom and gloom. Yeah, that's what we think. Obviously, let us know what you think. Even if you're not part of, we won't count your score if you aren't part of the group, but you are able to continue to compete and have fun. Obviously, we'd love for you to be a supporter of the show. You pay $10 once for the entire year, and that automatically gets you entered to win, like we said, 2 season tickets for the Steel Army section for 2024. Yeah, so have fun. This is all for fun. 7:30 ESPN Plus. Party at Bulldogs, Josh?
Yeah. Something to keep in mind, though, is it turns out Pittsburgh is having their St. Patty's Day parade on the 11th, the same time that we're having our watch party. I mean, at the same time, but the same day that we're having our watch party. So Bulldog is going to be packed, as it always is for St. Patty's Day. But we're still going to do a watch party. Jesse, the owner, he still said he's putting it on the TVs. He'll have the sound on. We're a go. So it's like it's going to be St. Patty's Day in the Hounds. So it should be fun. Nice. There won't be any tables because it's so packed in there. He takes away all the tables during this time. So yeah, standing room. Just come, hang out, and yeah, go Hounds.
Guys, like we made it. We
happening.
talked for a long time. I don't even know what's at 7 o'clock.
That might have been the worst preseason ever, by the way. I think that was just painful.
I somewhat agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. Here's to a great season. Listen, some of these guys, we were talking a little bit offline, not us, but Justin in our chat, and he was saying that what gives him a little bit of hope is that almost all of these signings are not straight out of college, that a lot of these guys have experience in the USL or NISA or somewhere. So they have some professional experience. They sort of know what to expect. A lot of these guys played, in Charleston or Miami, or not Miami, Tampa, Charlotte. So they've been around the league. Who knows? Maybe that plays in our favor. Maybe Lilley pulled out some magic in this one, and we're not going to know until we get into it. So, yeah.
This is the year.
He did. Stop. You just said this was the worst preseason ever. And now you're like, he did it.
This is the worst preseason ever, like, for me. It was just like very little news and just like, I don't know. It was rough. But now that we're back in it, man, we have a full squad of players.
Yeah, and I am positive about this team long term. Like, I do think we're going to be a good team this year. I just am unsure about our start of this season. I think it's going to be a rough start.
It always is. One more prediction. Are we going to finish higher or lower than we did last season?
Where did we officially finish last season?
5th?
I think that's about right. Like now,
we didn't get a home playoff game. Yeah, so it was 5th.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that's about where I see us right now. It's 5th. I think it should be higher. I'm hoping it's higher, but I like right now, not knowing, still being unsure. I think 5th.
Listen, I said that I want to be proven wrong. I would love to come on the show and eat crow and say I was wrong. I want this team to succeed. So,
but
hopefully they do. There's no but. Like, I hope
so
they do.
You think we're going to finish lower than 5th is what you're saying?
Oh, no, I didn't realize I was still on that question. Do I think we're going to finish lower than 5th? I have no clue. I honestly,
you can't be saying that stuff. And
Kevin answer. That's a Kevin answer.
Well,
if I ever heard one.
If we knew more about these friggin' players we just signed last week, I'd have more confidence in saying anything, but we don't.
I think Bob tried the whole let's re-sign players from the season before because COVID and we just kind of flunked out of the playoffs. And he's like, that was a fraud decision. Look how we ended up. I'm not re-signing anyone this year. Obviously we did. And then he brings in new players. I don't know. I feel confident. I think this is going to be a good season.
I will be very interested to see what our starting lineup is this week. And whether it matches what we did against Louisville or if a couple of these other guys work their way into the system. And I think that will be very telling of how the season ultimately plays out, because I think a lot of us were just expecting the guys that we brought back to be the starters. And if there are other guys that beat them out of those positions, then that'll be interesting.
My last comment, and then I'll shut up, is I think you're wrong. I think that the first 3 games will almost be not telling at all. I think these the next 3 games are Lilley's actual preseason.
I don't think that any game is telling. You don't have a picture of how this team is actually going to be until you're 10 games in, because even at that, every game that Lilley does is a microcosm in and of itself. And he tries to play we went up against Cincinnati, and I think he put Tommy V out as a winger, and we were like, what the hell is he doing? And it worked. So he takes every game as its own thing. So it's whether or not he's got the toys to make that happen. So we'll see. Last thing for me, and then we're out of here. I don't know if you guys saw, it's been really funny. Rob Vincent keeps sending out tweets about how you should not yell at players while they're playing and let them make their own decisions. And I'm like, how much of this is related to Lilley, and how much of this is him yelling at parents who are yelling at kids on the field while he's trying to coach?
I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think it's funny because because Lilley's our coach now, and seeing those tweets, he's definitely considering things with youth soccer when he's tweeting it, but still it is kind of funny to see.
It's very funny. So, all right, that's what we think. Everyone enjoy the week. Get down to Bulldog, try to be responsible St. Patrick's Day going on and all of that. Get your picks in. Like I said, we will tweet out. Now, actually, I'll put the post up early. So if you want to get it done before, 6:29 on Saturday, you're welcome to, especially with everything going on Saturday. Get your picks in early because you don't want to fall behind. But even if you do fall behind, it's a long season. You got a lot of time to make up some ground. But let us know, like we said, score prediction and whether or not it's a win or loss for the Hounds. Let us know. We'll keep track. We'll share the results on Monday, and we'll go from there. Otherwise, get it done, boys. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.